Hi, my name is Williams. Welcome to What the Hell is Web3 with Timi Ajiboye, a software developer and entrepreneur based in the UK. He co-founded and currently runs Eli Carrier, one of Africa's leading cryptocurrency companies. This podcast is brought to you by ConTech Africa. ConTech is a community for African creators to connect, grow, and discover where the talent fits in today's technology landscape. So let's get into it, Timmy. What is Web3 and why is it different?
Yeah, so the term Web3 is very similar to um how we group human beings as generations. So we have like millennials and Gen Zs and even though it's a grouping that is based on time, there are characteristics that make those generations different, right? Behaviors that people have observed. So similarly, with the history of the internet and the web, we have similar groupings. So Web one was characterized by the ability for people to go online and read stuff, right? Um, there wasn't really much bi-directional content creation. People were just essentially going online to read what a small subset of people were publishing, right? And then Web 2 was the time after that where most of the content that made up the web was created uh, by the users of the web. So there was a lot more, bi-directional content creation. As the technology improved, it became easier for anyone to like, say, for example, publish like a blog or share a video or a live stream or a picture, and that's what characterized Web two, which is the most of the web today. Um, and now there's Web three, and for me, the thing that defines the shift that is Web three is the ability to own something digital, right? To truly own a digital item, be it currency or whatever, in a way that is provable, that you can prove that you own it anywhere you go across the internet. Um, and that's something that wasn't possible before today's technology. I also feel like we will look back a couple of years from now, 10 years from now, and conclude that the new sort of proliferation of AI is part of Web3. Because with each of those Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, it wasn't just one set of technologies that became possible. It was a bunch of things that characterized that era. So so that's Web 3 and what I hope is a nutshell.
Okay, so most times, like when people talk about Web3, right, it's always in the same conversation with blockchain and decentralization. So, what is blockchain and what is decentralization?
Yeah. So I'll start with talking about decentralization. Uh, Decentralization is the practice or the action of reducing central points of control, right? Or reducing the need to trust central points of control. So prior to very recently, there was no way to truly own anything digitally unless it was mediated by a central authority. So a very good example of this is like, if you wanted to send someone money with a bank, um, banks essentially determine whether your transaction will be approved or will be considered to be a real transaction. A bank can actually arbitrarily decide that your transaction is not valid, right? Um, there are rules and laws to prevent this, but it still relies on trusting governments, banks, and tech companies. And decentralization helps us reduce the number of things that we have to trust those entities for. So there should be an internet native way, right, for me to hold money or an item, send it to whoever I want, the same way I can keep cash in my pocket, or give you my friend a baseball card. Um, there should be a way to do that. And an email is an example of something that is relatively decentralized, right? We use Gmail and we use Yahoo and all of that stuff. But if you wanted, you could actually set up your own email server. And how you can tell that something is likely decentralized is that it is interoperable. So, for example, you can send an email from a Gmail address to a Yahoo mail address. Despite the fact that the providers of these email services are separate companies, you can actually send an email to any email address in the world because the protocol, the thing that governs sending and receiving of emails is decentralized, is not controlled by any of these companies, and is just a part of the internet, right? And the difficult thing about accomplishing the ability to decentralize digital items is that the way we've built digital items today makes them infinitely copyable. So if I were to send you a picture, I'm not actually sending you a unique item. Your phone is just downloading a copy of the picture, right? The blockchain, which I think goes beyond the scope of explaining how it works, is the technology that allows for digital items to be identifiable, uniquely identifiable, scarce, in the sense that like you can't just copy it and all of a sudden I have Williams's money, or Williams's items or NFTs, and interoperable. You can send it to me anywhere in the world. Imagine you couldn't send an email to someone in Canada or someone in China or so, someone anywhere in the world because some bank says you can't. There should be an internet native way of doing that, and that's the what the blockchain um, allows. And the cool thing is it's just a part of the internet now. It's just one of the things the internet can do. You can own some sort of digital item and do whatever you want with it across the entire internet. Whether it's um on somebody's website as a social media platform or just sending it to your friends or whatever have you. Yeah.
Yeah, you say this, but you notice that the user experience of Web3 products and is not so great. So why is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, that's what always happens with new technology. I think, unfortunately, we're old enough to remember a world where taking a picture and sharing it to anyone, your friend remotely or the internet, was a multi-device, multi-step process, right? Like back in the day, when you were like 20, back long time ago, when you
It
just
was
turned
like two
20,
weeks ago, man.
you need a camera, right? You need a camera, a digital camera. You plug a camera to some old ass desktop or computer. Then if you have internet that is like sort of good enough to even upload it, where the technology made it such that the UX of sharing a picture was just so hard. And back then you would find, if you go back in time, read news and the general public sentiment, people were saying this is so hard to do. No one is ever going to want to share their lives on the internet. No one is ever going to want to stream on the internet. But and that's the reason why it's new technology, and there's so many things that need to improve, not just the technology, not just the code and the hardware, but the practices around building software products also have to catch up, right? So like um design, marketing, copywriting, all of those industries have to undergo a sort of metamorphosis, right? Like if you think about like early web days, websites were designed to look and feel very much like magazines, right? Because that was what human beings had as a place to read from, right? But as time has gone on, we've now invented new paradigms for designing websites, which, you know, is much better than trying to put a magazine on a web page, then the user has to be swiping, none of the interactivity and the responsiveness that comes with today's website. So it's growing pains. And if you are in the industry or if you're very observant, you will see that the experience is already improving, and it will just continue to do so. That is just the way the internet rolls. Yeah.
We talk about the industries, but how are these technologies useful to the average, like everyday person? Like, how would they use this technology?
Yeah. So I think uh to answer this question, I'm going to focus on the most common, most popular use case today. I think we'll talk more about like future use cases as the conversation runs along. But the most popular, obvious use case for the average person today is decentralized digital money. It might not really be useful for the average American, but it's really useful for the rest of the world, right? Being able to hold, send, and receive digital money that is not controlled or mediated by any government or institution is fantastic, right? Because now I can acquire some digital money on the internet and send it to you in another country, right? And that was just something that simply wasn't possible before, right? It just wasn't possible before. And so the versions of it that were possible before, like international transfers, are not native to the internet. They're actually mediated by governments and companies. But now the internet has a an internet native way of getting something that is of value, could be money, and sending it across. And you see that already happening. When I used to be a freelance engineer, most of like my payments happened with Bitcoin. They just got Bitcoin from wherever you get Bitcoin in the country that my client is in, and they send it to me. And there's so much more of that happening today. So that is kind of like the most popular use case, especially for people who don't live in the West, have sort of trash currencies and trash governments. And yeah, so that is the most common, most popular use case for this technology today. And it's already um changing lives in ways that was just simply impossible before. Yeah.
Mhm. Makes sense. Um, so yeah, like that's the most useful case today. And we've been hearing about Web3 for at least about a year now. So if you had to predict, like in the next 5 years from now, where do you see Web3 getting to? What do you think would be the state of Web3?
Yeah, I try to avoid exact timeline predictions because there's this saying that we tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run, but always underestimate the effect in the long run. So take 5 years with a pinch of salt. So I think it's inevitable that some things will happen in the future. Decentralized digital money will just become a normal part of the economy. It will just be referred to as money. There are very cool applications that people are building on top of this. The most popular example is the ability to swap any asset. So any kind of digital asset, so Ethereum or Bitcoin or some sort of NFT or digital collectible with someone else in an instant, trustless way, right? You just go to this service, it's called Uniswap, and you swap, and you don't need to trust the intermediary, Uniswap. You don't need to trust the other person. There's just a bunch of magic code, right? That allows that swap to happen. So very interesting sort of like financial products like that will just become normal. The idea of getting a loan with some collateral would become normal. You just go to some platform that does it in a decentralized way. You deposit your decentralized money and you get a loan in some other decentralized currency. Or you deposit your decentralized art or your decentralized collectible that's worth more as collateral. So we just start seeing a lot of financial applications that are just part of the internet, just normal. No one will really talk too much about it. That's just how interneting will go. Um, and then the word NFT that you hear up and down will disappear into the background. We'll just have all sorts of digital things for all kinds of reasons. We will buy and sell some of them. We will show off some of them in digital communities or even in the real world. We will invest in some of them. We will use some of them as part of games. So game items is something that I think will become digital collectibles in the future. You should be able to take a gun or a skin or a bomb from a video game and sell it or and even potentially use it in another game because now you own that item. It belongs to you and the it belongs to you in a way that is native to the internet. So anyone can build a game that allows you to shoot that gun in their game. So yeah, that's how I see um, the next decade sort of shaping out. We'll do more of the same stuff, but with more sort of like digital items that don't belong to any company or anything really. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you touched a bit on NFT, but like, can you give us more context? Because for a while now, I've been hearing NFT, NFT, NFT. I've not fully understood it.
Mhm.
So like, Can you tell us more about NFT and why someone should own it? Like, what's the utility of NFT? Why should an average person who is not a programmer and who doesn't have access to a few things own NFT?
Yeah. So human beings own a bunch of things, bunch of random ass things in the physical world. People own things that have a certain kind of perceived value. It could be a baseball card, it could be a Pokemon card, it could be the first edition of some popular book. It could be money, it could be art. So, and as the world becomes more and more digital, as we spend more of our lives on the internet, right, you will end up needing to own digital things, right? And digital things that are not issued by the platform you use it on, or that is not only usable by the platform you use it on. So, for example, if you have, I don't know, something on Instagram, maybe some picture you created on Instagram, you really can't do much with the item within Instagram. It's just an Instagram item, right? If video games, for example, if you play Call of Duty, you buy some weapons. It's just a gun in Call of Duty, right? An NFT is a digital item that is part of the internet that can be used everywhere. So you start seeing things like community membership cards will be an NFT, right? Instead of it being a physical card or whatever, it should just be an NFT in your wallet. And if you belong to that community, maybe they're doing a party, maybe they're doing a meetup. The thing you would have to do is prove ownership of the NFT by connecting your wallet to whatever it is they're using to scan your thing. Loyalty programs, for example, will become NFTs. In-game items, like I've already said, and I think more and more things like proof of ownership of things in the real world, right? Like your certificate of um, your deeds that you own a house could be an NFT. The word NFT will just disappear into the background in the same way the term MP3 just disappears into the background. No one really knows what file format they're listening to music on, right? No one really cares whether the picture on Instagram is JPG or PNG. No one gives a shit. So owning NFTs is just like owning a thing, and the things that would sort of form around that is like exclusive content and experiences that are interoperable across the internet. So what does this mean? Say for example, Beyonce um, issues something like a Beehive fan club membership digital collectible. It will be powered by NFTs behind the scenes, right? All the people that are Beyonce fans will try to collect this thing. They will try to buy it off people who, were scalpers and so on and so forth. Now, anyone anywhere in the world can create experiences around um, owning Beyonce's fan club NFT, right? Beyonce herself can make it such that whenever she's selling tickets on another platform like Ticketmaster, only the fans can buy the first 500,000 tickets. Um, you, a Beyonce fan who likes throwing parties on Beyonce's birthday, um, could make it such that anyone who has this membership club thing, because you're a member of the club too, you're crazy about Beyonce, you can give them a discount, right? So those are the kinds of things that NFTs will enable, and it's already the kind of things that human beings do all the time, right? It's just not possible, or it wasn't possible until the technology of NFT. So it's just really owning a thing, and it could be entirely digital things, or it could be things that map to some real world equivalent. I think like deeds, ownership of stock and etc. Um, yeah.
Man, when you talk about like access to things, right? Why can't we just use an email, for example, or let's say, I don't know, an ID to access those things? Why do they have to be NFTs?
So I guess what you're saying is like, um, if I want
Okay, let me
to,
give more context, right? So you
yeah,
said, like Beyonce's concert, for example. Let's
Mhm.
say you want to give like special people who might have even signed up to, maybe you tell them to subscribe to something and they'll get access to this and that. Why can't you just do that with their emails? Why do you have to give them access with an NFT? But like personally, I kind of feel like emails are already solving those problems. So why NFTs basically?
Um, so it's like saying, okay, let's think about the situation where you have a membership card to some sort of exclusive club that anywhere you travel around in the world, you get some perks. In a way, American Express is that um kind of community. You get an American Express card, and you get discounts and all sorts of free
Yeah.
things in the world. It- you can't anywhere you present the American Express card, it acts like a passkey. It will be sort of difficult to now. I guess how would email work in that situation, right? Like, would you now have to sign in with your email on every platform? Will every platform How will every platform know which emails belong to the community, right? Like, uh, yeah. But if someone has a card in their pocket and the card is the only, is proof that you belong to this community, then anyone can validate that you belong to the community because the owners of every NFT is on the blockchain, or at least you can validate. Someone can prove that I'm the owner of this, right? But with emails, if I invite you to my newsletter, for example, with your email, another platform cannot tell which people in the world are Timi's newsletters fans, right? But if by giving people a membership card, a digital membership card, um, then any platform can validate that they belong to that community.
Okay.
So that is why it's different.
So like you said, NFT is sort of like art, right? Like digital art. And with art, art can be cloned, like it can be replicated and all of that. So why can't I just sit in my room now and do some digital stuff and say, "Oh, this is this person's NFT. Let me use it to get into this." Why can't I do that?
Yeah,
What makes it different?
yeah, yeah. So the first thing is NFTs can be anything, right? They can be whatever you want it to be. Like I said, it could be a game item, it could be art, and art is just somehow the more popular um use cases that evolved first. So if you think about um say for example you there's some art event in all these hoity-toity high up art communities, right? And they only want people who own old classic art to come to their party. If you like, take picture of Mona Lisa, print it, and go to the party. No one is going to. You don't own Mona Lisa because you have a copy of the image, right? You don't own the Beyonce community pass because you downloaded the picture and saved it on your phone. You own it when your wallet has the NFT. Like that's the power of the blockchain and decentralization, making it possible to actually genuinely own a digital item in a way that is uniquely identifiable and provable across any platform that is willing to check the blockchain. So you go to a website, it says prove that you are a Beyonce fan. Do you belong to any of these communities? You if you like upload picture or connect your wallet. In fact, download the picture, create your own NFT, use the same picture. It doesn't matter. Everyone knows sort of like the address or the identifier of Beyonce community membership card. So there's no way to sort of spoof ownership of it, and that's why it's really cool.
Okay. Um, so I mean, you've spoken about like all the usefulness of NFTs and how it affects Web3 and everything, right? But like let's still like stick to this art lane, right? Are there cases
Mhm.
where NFTs are just built just to be art? Like, it doesn't need to have like extra utility. I can just say, oh, this looks good. I want to own this. I don't need to think about
Yeah,
what would I use it for eventually.
yeah. So I mean, it's very, very similar to today's art world in a sense, right? You know, it's very difficult to say what the value of a piece of art is from, right? Is it the markings on the canvas? Is it the paint? Is it the color? Is it the artist that painted it, or the story behind it, or the things that happened, right? All those things could accrue to an NFT, to a digital item, right? And it's important to sort of view an NFT as a certificate of ownership of art, right, than the art itself. Because what is the art really? Like, like I said, you can have Mona Lisa in your room, but you don't own Mona
Honestly.
Lisa. Yeah, exactly. So it happens. There are very interesting sort of things that even I consider to be art. There are some NFTs that um the art is code that generates some weird shit on the internet, right? And to me, when people build those kinds of things, I find it so fascinating and so brilliant. I buy, right? I buy and keep. And I also believe, oh, it's really early. These are the first examples of truly digitally generative art that somebody can own. I believe that, man, you know, 5 years from now, I'll be able to flex and be like, man, I bought the first, you know, this one, or I bought the 10th one. There's only 100 of us that own this stuff, right? So it's very similar to like art today. It's less about the actual picture and more about the vibes, honestly. And an NFT is just a way of transporting the certificate of owning it to the internet in a way that nobody can pretend like they own it if they don't, and anyone can validate that you are the owner. Yeah. So that's yeah.
Okay. So I mean, with regards to like new technologies coming up, there's always also new career opportunities, right? So what are the
Yeah.
quality? What's the possibility? What career opportunities do you see might be coming up or already exist that maybe isn't really known of? Yeah, can you share
Hmm.
more detail on that?
Yeah. So the thing I'm slowly starting to realize about this industry, and I like about this industry, is that by design it's very global, right? Because it's internet native technology, which means it doesn't care where you are, right? It doesn't actually care about your physical location. Bitcoin does not care where you are. Doesn't care about the color of your skin. Doesn't care about, I mean, the language you speak, provided there's translation technology, right? By nature, it's internet first, right? So um, it feels a lot more inclusive um, than anything I've seen before. So that's something that I say to encourage people who look like us um, to get into the business. So in terms of specific career paths, it's pretty much anything, right? Like design, legal, finance, uh, marketing, right? It's not just about tech. It's not about coding. If you are building um, a tool that makes it easier, say for example, for artists to issue membership cards to their community, it will need someone to do the design. It will need someone to write the copy. It will need someone to be sort of like their marketing slash community lead, and so on and so forth. So pretty much any industry that exists today can find themselves um, working in Web3 and in crypto more broadly. Finance, pretty much everything, really. It just takes some sort of like reorienting, relearning, but it's really open to all sorts of. If you already spend your time working on a computer, if you're a remote, if you're like a 21st century like digital worker, there's probably something you can do in Web3. And there are two reasons I would encourage people to consider this very strongly, apart from the fact that it feels like a more inclusive, more global uh, industry. One, it's early, And it is so rare for you to exist, especially as an African or someone who grows up outside the West, to exist at a time where you can actually take part in shaping the next evolution of the internet, right? Like it's 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 um it's a once in a lifetime sort of opportunity. Many people, it's rare to be in such a time where there's a new paradigm that will completely, the internet will just completely like shift around. It's the same way it always happens. Like smartphones, people didn't think people wanted to carry computers in their pockets. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you were in the early days of when people were working on smartphone and you were focused on mobile and you realized what a paradigm shift it was, you would have taken part in shaping a new paradigm of the internet. And there's not many people that look like us in any of those previous um, generations of the internet. So that's one really important reason to consider this. The second important reason is, man, Web3 companies are looking for talent. And in the current sort of like, um, economic climate, other companies seem to be doing the opposite. They seem to be sacking everybody. So, so and there are many reasons why. So I mean, I think now is the time, and yeah, Web3 companies are looking for talent. There's not enough talent. There's not enough designers. There are not enough you know marketing people or comms people or community growth people who truly understand the technology, truly understand what it can do, and are throwing their own hats in the ring. So now is a good time to sort of scale up, because eventually things get saturated, and that's why um, it's kind of weird that it's actually hard to just be like a regular engineer and get like a job today, or harder than it was before saturation and before the market sort of became shit for everybody. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks again for coming to share your knowledge about Web3 with me and everyone. This podcast again is brought to you by ConTech, the community for African creators to connect, grow, and discover where their talent fits in today's technology landscape.